Hello, Pod Smashers of the Internet, and welcome to another episode of
80-Bit Pod Smash,
Where Gaming Goes to Grab a Beer.
We are your hosts, Penguin and Termite. I am Penguin.
And I am Termite.
And we're
we are a weekly video game podcast, smashing together ideas that you care about with video games. I had to open it first.
I'm beat you the bun. I'm on my Adderall, late
You're
Adderall dose.
You're chomping me down over here. Take a breath.
That's what Gavin was telling me today. He was like, take a breath, Dad. I was like, what? What are you telling me to do that, kid? All right. So, yeah, tonight is a show, and we are where gaming goes to grab a beer. So, our topic tonight is preloaded games, specifically preloaded PC games, but those are the games that just sort of come preloaded into whatever system you're playing. So it can be as awesome as Astro's Playroom, or it could be as legendary as Solitaire. We're going to talk about all of them because they're a unique gaming experience and not talked about as far as I can tell. Like the name, there's no ubiquitous name for them other than preloaded, which is such a lame name. So we're going to talk about it, all that and more. But we are where gaming is to grab a beer. So what are you drinking tonight?
I have grabbed a 4-pack of Two Silos Pumpkin Ale, Two Silos Brewing Company from Manassas, which I've always wanted to go to with friends when I was living in Fredericksburg area and never made it. But I've driven by it a bunch of times. So this is their pumpkin ale. Of course, every brewery's got a pumpkin ale, right? This is what the can says. Our pumpkin ale is a beautifully balanced autumn brew with rich orange coloring and complementing spice aromas. This seasonal ale is handcrafted with an assortment of specialty spices and a generous amount of raw pumpkin, creating a delicious American original. So, audience, what I look for whenever I look at a pumpkin ale is, does it have actual pumpkin, or is it just spiced to death? Because I prefer beers that are made with actual pumpkins versus the spiced ones. And that's why I grabbed this beer, because it said generous amount of raw pumpkin, indicating it's actually made that way. And it fits the bill. It tastes like you eat pumpkin.
Nice. Yummy
it has pumpkin. The spices there too. Yeah, I mean it's a balanced beer. It has the spices. It has the body that the pumpkin gives, and it has that golden color it talks about. So it's good. It's a well-balanced pumpkin solid beer.
I was thinking about grabbing a fall beer tonight, but since we're talking about Halloween next week, and then we're doing our Monster Smash for actual Halloween, I decided to save the two really solid fall beers I have for those episodes. And instead, since we're talking about little somethings tonight, I grabbed my little something. So Lagunitas Little Something. It's always, for me, it's a classic. It's one of the few pale ales that I will drink without question, because it's not overly hoppy, but it still feels like a strong boozy beer. So I've always enjoyed a little something.
Me too.
So yeah, that is what we're drinking tonight. We are going to skip our typical banter, and the only thing that I will talk about is the reason why we're skipping our typical banter, which is we're on a truncated recording turnover right now because we never really have had a great opportunity after Termite's wife broke her foot. Completely unforeseen and uncontrollable circumstance. We haven't been able to properly catch up in our episode bank like we normally do. So we're on a record a week before and then we edit, turn around, and then drop. But we ran into a snafu on Monday where typically we record Mondays, which gives us a whole week, and that's been comfortable for us for a while. But there's a reason why we bank episodes, and we came across that reason when I got sick as a dog out of nowhere. I felt like I was going to throw up. You told me you could record at 8, and my kids were down at 7. So I was like, I've got an hour. I'm just going to close my eyes. And Macy was like, you're recording with Termite at 9, right? Are you going to fall asleep? Do I need to, you're recording at 8. Are you going to fall asleep? Do you need me to wake you up? And I was like, nah, I feel like too much crap to actually fall asleep. Was out.
Nope.
I was out in seconds.
Out.
And the next thing I know, my wife's shaking me 10 minutes after 8, being like, I thought you were supposed to record with Termite. And I'm like, you don't feel any better. So I bailed, which puts us at Wednesday now, which gives me two of my typical days. I know I have longer technically, but still 2 days of turnaround. So we're going to try to truncate this episode a little bit. So it's technically my fault. Well, it is absolutely my fault, but it's sort of this is a group effort as far as failure goes, a little bit. And so we're gonna jump right into our first segment, because being sick and not being able to record your great podcast with your great buddy is not our favorite thing. But
80-bit pod smash is our favorite thing. Oh, I got a good one. I've got a favorite thing that's so big, it is an actual legitimate bucket list item from me that will be fulfilled. Yeah.
Okay.
Like,
Oh,
the
yeah,
serious, like,
about. Yeah,
do
I've seen you posting on our Discord. Yep.
If y'all are paying attention to our Discord, you already know what that is. I am going to see Blink-182 next year in July. They're touring. They're having a reunion tour. They just announced it like a couple days ago. They brought the original singer Tom DeLonge back, and because he had been gone and replaced with Alkaline Trio's Matt Skiba for 2 albums. And
sorry, I love Alkaline Trio.
Yeah, and Matt Skiba's albums are awesome with Blink-182, so you should go check out Blink-182's 2 newest albums. That would be California and 9, both featuring Matt Skiba as the main singer. Well, I don't know what happened. I don't know why Matt Skiba's not with them anymore, but they brought the original singer, Tom, back.
They probably just wanted to bring it back. Right.
Probably,
that's probably he probably just agreed to come back, and so they're like, Matt,
that's what I'm thinking, money.
Yeah.
Like, well, what's crazy
No, not money, but like doing it for the fans too, right? Like,
I hope so.
Anyways.
I hope so. I don't know them that well, but I know Mark Hoppus, the bass drummer, backup singer, he just survived cancer and he was like gonna die. So he survived. Big deal. It was awesome that he lived, right? And then Travis Barker, many years ago, survived a plane crash, had 3-degree burns all over his whole body, like couldn't drum for a while. And so like the fact that he's still in the game, all 3 of them together, this is really like a genuine miracle. So I am extremely excited to go see them. They're my favorite single band of all time.
Fall in love with any girls at the rock show.
Yeah, you know.
She'll say what? And you'll tell her that you don't know. Yeah, that's how you're supposed to. It's how you're supposed to handle that situation when upon falling in love with a girl at the rock show.
Well, I guess if my wife comes home to posters on the wall of this girl, then she'll know what happened.
Exactly. Oh man, Blink-182 brings me back.
Oh, it's so good.
I was never a big fan. I mean, not that they're not good. I recognize in hindsight they are legendary for the 90s, but I myself at the time was like, it was far too mainstream for.
Oh, you hated it, yeah, you hipster.
Me. Yeah, I was way too hipster for that stuff. I'm on Adderall. Too late. I took it too late. This is not to be repeated. I just suffer through until the next day. My favorite thing, aside from getting my Adderall dose, correct Adderall dose for the rest of the month, is we finally took the kids to one of the nearby pumpkin patches in the area. So we went to Sneed's, and it was excellent. A little pricey,
Sneed's is
but
awesome.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Sneed's is great. Yeah, so it was just great. You know, the kid, there aside from the pumpkin patch itself, there's hay rides, there's like slides they have. They've got like a little stuff set up in a forest for like a little forest walk. And he just like ate that up, just loved it. And
it's
awesome. Didn't want to leave at all.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was fun. We went with our friends of the show, Ryan and their daughter, who's just like 6 months older than my son Gavin. She was bossing him around. It was adorable. They were holding hands. She was like, "Come on, Gavin, let's go find a pumpkin." And it was so cute. And it was just a good time, all around good times for everyone. The kids loved it. We loved it. My daughter was just happy to be out in the sunlight. And she's now saying the word, she has the word up is like her word. And she says it like an empress. She will look you dead in the eye and go, "Oh."
Your noise canceling kind of like ruined that. And I don't know if it was recorded or not, but
she just says it so commanding and forcefully, and she can't say the puh sound, so it's just an but it's like a
nice. There you go.
I don't even know if it's gonna pick it up. So and then demanding, of course, you pick her up. But anyway, so she just, then she'll be outside and point at the sky as if like, "Bring me the sky, peasant." So again, all around great time for everyone. I also will sort of throw in because I don't know next time I'll be able to talk about it, but I'll throw in the honorary House of the Dragons season 1 episode 8 was great. Brought me back to the good old days of Game of Thrones. Yeah, it was. So some good old machinations. Matt Smith is amazing, and I knew he was going to be the Jamie of the show. Spoilers. I knew he was going to be like the bad boy turned good of the show, and I was right. And it's Matt Smith, and he's amazing. So he plays Damon, in case you don't know who that actor is.
Yeah, I just looked it up because I was like, "Who's Matt Smith?"
I
know Damon.
I'm sure,
though,
boom. That was like the first thing that appeared was pictures of him, just because it's the most recent thing he's done. So he's also a Doctor Who. That's why I love him. So, anyways,
nice.
That is favorite things then. So, which leads us to our Next segment, just chugging right along.
Yeah, which is meow, meow, meow.
DLC. I make that sound so often these days, by the way. Like anytime something exciting happens, I'm usually just
Meow,
like,
meow, meow, meow.
yeah, and I just do it. I almost did it for favorite things. I almost was like doing the pod specials, our favorite thing. It's just like constant, nonstop. I was like, wait, no, I gotta save that for DLC. I gotta save that energy. So DLC for the day is pretty simple. We're talking about preloaded games. So I want you to imagine a brand new, now that Microsoft owns all these studios, imagine they release a like brand new Windows 12. Let's just call it Windows 12, new operating system. Like Windows 11 was garbage, Windows 12 is the new thing. What would be the slate of games that they preload onto the operating system? But here's the catch. It can't just be like modern games. They take up too much space. So part of what makes preloaded games is that they take up such little space that it's inconsequential to the overall like space requirements of the operating system. So what are the games that they own that they could preload onto Windows 12 to just like blow everyone's mind?
Well, I'm going to make a jump in technology here. Windows 12
Okay.
is going to be the metaverse. So
Okay,
instead of having, but I'm not done yet because I have some ideas.
All right,
so you put on a virtual reality headset, a la not Ender's Game, Ready Player One.
The one, that's one.
Yeah, and that's your operating system,
I
and the
prefer Ready
games
Player
that come
2.
with it.
I'm kidding.
Whoa. Okay. What you get
Controversial
though is
statement of the day.
ski-free VR. And you go down a little. It's a procedurally generated virtual reality skiing game. And
I forgot about ski.
Yeah, and the reason why it takes up
awesome.
so little space is because the levels aren't these big sprawling maps. It's just generated by algorithm. So it generates like the next terrain, the next level, the obstacles, the things, and it takes up so little space. And you just ski in virtual reality, and that's the game. That's it.
I was gonna say, now that they own Bethesda, just slap classic Doom on there. Every single Windows box out there has Doom on it because of course it does, right? Like they have to just put the classic, because everything everywhere always talks about how Doom is on, like you can run Doom on everything, right? You can get
They just got it to run in Notepad.
It's this many, it requires this many potatoes to run Doom, right? Like potatoes hooked up to a light bulb to run Doom.
Yep.
And so I feel like, and now just because of all those memes, now that they own it, now that they own Bethesda, who owns id Software, it's like just slap Doom preloaded on everything. Then it's like you're going to be spinning up VMs and be like, all right, I'm going to test this VM by just loading up Doom, make sure everything looks good. It works as expected. It'll be the benchmark test for basic like VM maintenance. And we're talking so basic, but it's like perfect. Is there anything else that you think now that what's like an Activision? They could do like Warcraft, right? They could do Warcraft or StarCraft. Original StarCraft would be like pennies on the dollar, right? Like it would be a little bit built bigger than those games, but oh my gosh, like imagine StarCraft for free on every single Windows device.
Yeah, that'd be sweet.
Wow.
And it would expand the player base.
100%. Yeah.
Come play StarCraft
That's
with
the
me.
kicker. That's the kicker. So, like, Microsoft, that is not a free ID. You have enough money to throw around that you have to pay us for that idea. So, there you go.
Yep.
If StarCraft, Doom, and Ski Free VR, and what was the other one I said? I think those are the only three we said. If that combination of games shows up, then we are suing you for licenses, royalties.
So, what we need is a dump truck full of $1 bills backed up to my house. Another one backed up to Penguin's house at the same day, same time, live streamed on Twitch. 80-bit pod smash. Twitch.tv/80-bit pod smash.
Scrooge McDuck right into that pile of money.
We're going to just jump into the dump truck full of $1 bills. So I don't know how many $1 bills would fit. It's pennies to Microsoft.
Enough to fill a dump truck. Exactly.
That's it.
We still get to keep the dollars. Like we don't want to just swimming in it and then they take it back. No, we want
No. Yeah, they dump it. We have to. We get
These
in
are our
it in the
demands.
passenger seat and we drive to the bank and then we deposit it so that I don't have to deal with a dump truck's worth of $1 bills in my yard.
100%. Yes. No,
I'm not dealing with that. So you're going to
jump into it
while
while it's still in the dump truck. Yeah,
right.
yeah.
It's swim in it and then
nothing,
get it.
Microsoft. That's nothing. That's easy.
And it's free advertising, marketing, and content for your Game Pass.
Boom.
Microsoft. Do it.
There you go, Michael. We already are basically free advertising for Game Pass.
Right? Yeah.
As highly as we talk about it.
No.
All right, that is DLC. That was a good one. That was a good one.
Yeah.
I literally made that one up on the spot as I went. There was no pre-planning or forethought on that one. It was.
You might as well be on like 6 Red Bulls and a full night's rest with no kids.
This is what happens when. Okay, so I am still coming off that 12-hour night.
Yeah,
because thanks to you enabling me to not record the podcast, I then slept 12 whole hours, and I don't think I've slept 12 whole hours as a grown adult. Like, I cannot remember the last time I've slept 12. Like, I guess not intoxicated and like coming out like in college, right? Like,
that doesn't
even
count.
Then, I still feel like I would wake up after like 9 hours.
Yeah.
So yeah, 12 hours. It was because I basically only woke up to text you and say that I couldn't record,
and then just pass back out,
take my contacts out, lumber into bed, and pass out. So it was, again, taking that brief, probably maybe total of like 25-minute interlude. It was 7 o'clock to 8 o'clock the next morning. So yeah, maybe 13 hours. 12 and a half. We'll split the difference, say 12 and a half.
There you
go. So yeah.
Wow.
So like that plus now my Adderall dosage is correct, though I took it late in the day, which is not correct. That is not how I should be taking it. That is why I am the way I am right now. But hey, the internet benefits. So that is ELC, which leads us to our topic. We are so nicely on schedule. This is going to be a nice, tight episode. Penguin is pleased. Let's not squander it. We are talking about preloaded games. We just gave you a taste of it in DLC, what preloaded games are, but let's just start there at the beginning, defining what we're talking about for those who may not yet get it, which is fine, or those who just might be skipping our DLC because they don't want to hear us ramble about stuff. We're talking about preloaded games, so what are preloaded games? And the follow-up question is, what systems tend to have preloaded games out of the box?
We are talking about when you install, which most people just don't need to do this anymore, but you and I are in the tech industry. We do our full-time jobs, are sort of IT and IT adjacent, respectively, you being IT.
Surprise, someone installs it.
Right.
No matter what it is, no matter what hardware, you may come out of the box, plug it in, and it's already installed, but like
someone's installed it.
Someone's installed an operating system on your box.
Yep. And you and I were exposed to this, we're getting there to the definition, back with like Windows 3.1 and Windows 95, maybe Windows 98. Or if you were a Linux kid, in whatever versions of Linux, but you had games like Solitaire.
Linux kids. There were just Linux people. Like
I don't know. They're far and few between. But these kids in college that I went to school with, these next level, like really smart people,
of course,
they were the ones like Linux kids.
That's what I'm saying. There's no such thing as a Linux kid, because if you were exposed to Linux as a child, you grew up immediately, like probably 4 age groups.
You just matured. That's it.
You're just suddenly like, I now have college level intelligence.
Love it.
Exactly. No, puberty comes later. Your body will then catch up to your brain later. But yes, you have a head start on all of us.
So you'll know if you install these things, or if you played with them at a fresh install level, there's games installed. You're like, oh, sweet. You go to like start, and then you have like the games tab, and there's Solitaire, Minesweep. And some video game consoles also have games installed on them, such as the PlayStation 5, the most recent example, has Astro's Playroom installed. Like, you don't get to pick.
Beautiful
You unbox
game.
it. It's amazing. You unbox the PlayStation 5, and it's already there for you. You can delete it if you'd like. Sometimes you can't delete these things, which is another caveat we'll get to later. But that's what preloaded games are. It's different from Wii Sports, because Wii Sports is a separate disc that came with your Wii, but you had to put the disc in, right? It was a thing.
Yep.
Back then, you didn't like to install games, though. That was kind of nice. You just put the disc in and it worked. If there was a patch, that worked, but nothing was like translated to a drive.
Wii, that's so weird. Yeah,
isn't that weird? It's all on the disc.
I just
wild.
I remember it, but I don't remember it. It seems so foreign, even because like I still think of discs as something that like you have to download it off of. But that didn't come. You're right. That didn't come till like PlayStation 3 generation.
Yeah.
Wow.
Which is when the Wii came out, but the Wii was behind and different. Exactly. So that's what a preloaded game is. At least I think that's the fleshed out definition that I'm talking about. And cell phones, they also have, apps installed, especially the third party manufacturers for Android like Samsung, LG, HTC, Motorola, etc. They all have their suite of apps. They may or may not be games, but sometimes they are, which is why I went with like
Yep, and some of that, like, there's a fine line between like a preloaded game and bloatware. In fact, some people may just say that preloaded games are essentially bloatware. Bloatware is that stuff that's like, here's the suite of apps that are like preloaded onto your phone when you open it up, that the manufacturer puts on there because they're trying to hawk their crap, that you're going to either delete or hide and put the better version of it that Google puts out anyways, right? But this happens with games too, and when it happens with games, we tend to be kind enough to call them preloaded games, but they're technically the same thing. It is essentially anything that's already installed on your phone, or sorry, that's already installed on your device in the operating system when you power it up. And like things like Astro's Playroom are a bit more like out of the box things where like then you could delete them later. It's really the ones that we're going to be focusing on are the ones that are just like inherent in the operating system, but they are an operating system tied thing, right? Like that, if we're talking about the system, it's like they're not necessarily inherent on the hardware. It's the operating system that these things are tied to. So, but as far as I can tell, pretty much all operating systems have them, except for very specific operating systems that are like, this is an enterprise level operating system. You don't need preloaded games because it's for business only. You know, so there are some exceptions, but still, the like Windows, like the Windows 10 is just the user, the personal version of like Windows Server, right? So Windows Server might not have it, but its equivalent Windows personal version will have them. So it's
like
still,
the consumer model versus the enterprise.
It's just a switch. It's the switch they turn on and off. So it's still like basically the same thing. So yep, operating systems have them. So cool. All right. Well, then our next question is, what is unique about these games? And the question you might not necessarily expect with this topic is, how are these games influential? How are they actually influential? Because I would be willing to bet that many of these games are more influential than many AAA games. Boom. There's my statement for the night. So
there it is. Are you that meme sitting at the table that's like,
change my mind?
Yeah.
That's totally like, you're reading it. Like the listeners can't read my posture right now, but that's literally like, that's my statement.
They're more influential than AAA games. Change my mind.
Boom, change my mind. Not all AAA games, but many AAA. They are. I would say that most of these games are more influential than Babylon's Fall. Let's go.
Yeah, right. Well, a lot of games are more influential than Babylon's Fall. Exactly. At a 32nd of the budget. Ooh. So what is unique about these games? Most people will play them because they're already there. You'll just like, they already exist. They take up a very little space. Like they always take up very little space. They're very non-intrusive, at least when they're done correctly. Some some have like, there's that whole like suite of Tangent comes to mind, Tangent. But the logo, I remember being like this 3DW with like a curve on it. And it was a whole suite of games, and it would always boot up with Windows. It was like Windows XP. It was awful. And it was like, it was so bad. But like every HP laptop, Lenovo, like whatever it was, had this crap.
Yeah, sometimes the manufacturer puts them on. That's when it's bloatware. It's like when it's just Windows, like usually Microsoft's chill and puts just the basics on there. But some of the manufacturers, like we said, like Lenovo or HP, they'll have like their own suite that if you buy it out of the box and don't install the OS yourself, they're like almost guaranteed to have some, and that's when it's in the realm of bloatware as far as I'm concerned, because the Windows basic ones.
Go ahead. The Windows basic ones. Let's talk about those. For example, Windows basic ones, right? We had Galactic Pinball, Space Pinball. Yes. That was amazing. Ski Free, which I alluded to.
Ski Free.
Yeah. And we had Solitaire and Minesweeper, like puzzle games. And those are the typical
And I mean, Solitaire alone, I guarantee more people have played Solitaire, have touched Solitaire than have touched God of War, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Like more people have touched it probably than Fortnite. It is
maybe more than Call of Duty.
Exactly. It is like, because it's a card game, right? But it's still a video. It's like its gameplay is 100% just a card game that people play. But I want to know, who do you like? How many people out there have ever played Solitaire with actual cards? And if you have you done that more than you've played it on the computer? Because the thing is, like, as far as I'm concerned, Solitaire, I mean, number one, there's no doubt about it, Solitaire is a video game in its preloaded game incarnation, and even though it's based off a card game, it's a video game. But number two, it's just so like ubiquitously people just play Solitaire when they're bored at work, right? So, and I would say 95% of those people don't consider themselves gamers, but they play that game. That's why it's influential, because they're just they're available, and they eat time. And it's a meme. I guess it's a meme, but it's like an old sort of cliche that in the office, like early 2000s, late 90s, like that's what people would do to kill time at work. This is play solitaire or ski free or
Yeah,
Minesweeper.
have you ever walked up on somebody and they're like suddenly minimizing a window? They don't want you to see that they're playing solitaire.
It's either adult content on the internet or it's solitaire. or Minesweeper or ski free. Yeah. Pinball, though, I feel like pinball was the one that us kids tended to gravitate towards. It was colorful. There you go. It was awesome.
Good influential segue. Why is it influential? Because gamers, children who would get on their computers would play with these games because they didn't require an ask for money. They were already there. They were already installed. It didn't require administrative privileges to go ask your parents. It was like your child account had access to them too. And you could, they even had child accounts back then, but that's why they're influential. It was the exposure that we all in the 90s kids especially got to play more games. Like I remember the Galactic Pinballs making me excited about playing Diablo, making me excited about playing StarCraft. Like that was totally a gateway into PC gaming. How do you use a keyboard to like control the screen? How do you use a mouse, and like getting familiar with the controls and like the fascination with games.
I became convinced that you could beat Ski Free, that you could beat the Abominable Snowman. And there was, of course, but you didn't have YouTube, so there weren't like YouTube videos where people either faked it or YouTube videos where people did it right. Like it was just, there was a rumor that you could, and that rumor would spread around school. You can beat Ski Free, and it's great because you'll see the Abominable Snowman do a dance. But I'm like, I feel like that's an urban legend, and it all sprung up around this preloaded game that all of us played because like mid to late 90s was when parents were starting to accept the fact that computers, you needed to have a PC. It was still early and it was still pre-internet, but it was still like, you need to have one of these things in your house. And us kids were like, oh my gosh. And it was a gateway drug for many of us in a way. I call it methadone for 90s kids, where it's like, it just sort of tided us over until we could actually get consoles, like, until we could actually get what we wanted, right?
Yep.
So that is not a knock on, methadone clinics do good work, and the weaning off of hard drugs is very important. But so I'm not trying to minimize that at all. But it also felt like that as a kid, where you're just like, I just need something to tide me over. Give me Galactic Pinball. Give me Minesweeper. Although I never figured out. I didn't figure out Minesweeper until I was in high school. It was like high school computer class that I finally figured out how you're supposed to play it. Because as a kid, I'm just like, what? Why did I lose? I don't understand what the numbers are.
How does this work? Yeah. Well, you are way ahead of me because I learned how to play Minesweeper like last year, maybe 2 years ago, and in my 30s. I finally decided to really sit down and learn what the crap. And I realized it's a language. Like you kind of just get it. Like you start seeing the Matrix, so to speak. Like it's wild.
No, it's exactly what it is. You have to see. But you can still, the Minesweeper is that game you can still always lose by just clicking the mine the first time. It's entirely possible. Just boop. Oh, well, I lost that one. But it's so, I mean, again, the little smiley face, you click it, you go. It's just such a seamless experience. There's nothing else like it. There's nothing else like it because the game is like 3 bits on your operating system. But there's nothing else like it. It's a seamless experience.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. All right. Well, we sort of talked about this next question, which is, since these games were in many ways the introduction for many people, how do they fare as how do the games themselves sort of stand up as first time games? Like if you were to tell if you were to start right with Jude and say, you can't play the Nintendo until you play these games. Do you think that they stand up as like first time games by gaming standards today? And then, we'll follow up. We have already sort of talked about many of our experiences with preloaded games, but if there are any other first experiences you had with these games, let's talk about those. So that's the next question.
Yeah. So how do they stand up? I don't know if they've aged well. That may be a different question. But at the time, okay, so the content, right? The analogy here. Look at Astro's Playroom. That's a modern example of that. So I'm going to go with that and say, does it hold up as a game that would introduce someone to more aspects of gaming? Absolutely. Because
way better than Astros. Astros still has a language that you have to know, right? Like you don't have to have a language of gaming to play any of these games. That's why I think they're almost perfect intros. Because we've talked about on our like gamer, like first time gamer, non-gamer series, we talked about the idea that like there's this whole language around gaming that like first time gamers and Astro's Playroom builds off of that wonderfully, beautifully, And it does.
Well,
It
yeah, you have
accomplishes
to
what
know
it's
how to
supposed to
use a
do.
camera. Like with Astro's Playroom, you got to know how to third person, like manipulate the
Yeah.
camera,
You got
manipulate
to know
jumping
how
and
to that you
platforming,
can
and
hold jump. Exactly.
yeah,
You don't
that
have
kind
to
of stuff.
do
You're right.
that with
Yeah,
any of these games because they were not built with that in mind. They were built to be
right.
like as approachable as any possible game because they expected
Yep.
randos
Yeah.
who care to do it.
So
And
then
many of them are card games, right?
the most
So,
modern example of that now would be whatever's preloaded on any phone you buy. Usually
yep.
there's like a match 3 game, some puzzle like thing, even like Angry Birds type sort of physics based things you can
Yeah.
manipulate and play with. Peggle,
Right,
I
you figure
remember,
it
was a
out.
big deal.
Mm-hmm.
Like those types of games are still like that in today's time. So does the paradigm hold up? Yes. Would Ski Free hold up today? Probably not. I don't think that would grab my kids' attention as much as it did mine because of the context of our time. Like in the
Sure. Yeah,
90s,
yeah.
that
Oh,
made
yeah,
sense and it
yeah.
was fun and appealing. But today, they have phone games and tablet games and like
Although I
YouTube.
bet you could get your kids to play the mess out of Ski Free if you lied to them and told them that there was a way to beat it.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Right? The challenge of
Okay,
Ski
I
Free
have it
still
up
holds
on my
up.
screen right now. I'm currently playing Ski Free as we speak, and
I love it.
it's pretty bad. This
Oh.
did not age well. This is awful. It's easy to play; you just move the mouse back and forth, but graphics and animations are not.
We definitely need a Ski Free reboot. That is such low hanging fruit. Where's the Ski Free reboot on your phone?
this
right?
is-
Like I feel like
close that
Ski
out.
Free would be a fantastic phone game. Like
You would think,
and
The touch.
I mean, it would make an excellent AAA horror experience. Like
Oh,
the
that'd
next
be great.
the next Slender Man, the next PT, it should 100% be Ski Free.
That would be awesome.
So somewhere like Slender Man meets.
I mean,
do you
Until
call
Dawn
it?
is almost that, right? I mean, it's
That's what
not
I'm saying.
skiing, but-
That's what I meant. Yeah, Until Dawn.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
Slender Man meets Until Dawn is the Ski Free horror reboot that we need. We 100%
Happy Halloween, everyone!
need
You heard it
now.
here first.
That is also not a free idea. Now I want royalties. Alongside, of course, the creators of Ski Free that did the hard work. I did the easy work of imagining and coming up with an idea that is all such a stupid idea. But so stupid it works.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, for me, it was. I would agree as well. Some of them, yes. Some of them, no. Solitaire still holds up, of course, because it's Solitaire.
Right.
It doesn't go away. Same with Minesweeper. Galactic Pinball, I think, still holds up incredibly well. It looks and feels fine to play. Amazing game. I mean, but the fact you can run it on like Flash now is like great. I mean, right? Like there's the game. The game just.
I
should
think
be
what
on
we're talking
everything.
about is 3D Pinball Space Cadet.
That's it. That's one. We
Yeah.
know. We know what it is, and
Yeah.
everyone who's talking to us knows what it is. No one's out there being like, "Galactic Pinball, what's that?" I only.
Well,
ever
like,
played
there could be some
3D
children or
Pinball
Gen
Space
Zers
Cadet." Okay,
who don't know
right,
what we're talking about.
They're trying to
Yeah.
Google Galactic Pinball. I feel like if you Google Galactic Pinball, it's going to be 3D Pinball Space Cadet, right? Like, well,
Yeah.
maybe not.
It came
Either
out with
way-
Windows XP. Who knew?
Amazing. I do remember it coming out on Windows XP because I remember it wasn't always there. There were lots of times it was just Ski Free, Minesweeper, and Solitaire, and then it was like, oh my gosh, Galactic Pinball. By the way, the best part about Solitaire is when you beat it, it does the whole like thing where it like, it leaps out at the screen at you.
Yes.
All of the things. Yeah, it was amazing. And then if if you're a really cool kid, you'd get it to that point, and then you'd take the window and you drag it across the screen, and the like after image would like
Yeah.
would like ruin Windows, wouldn't be able to keep up with it, and so it would just completely ruin your background. You'd be like, "Ha ha!" and you'd leave it
Yep.
there for your dad, and he'd come back and be like, "Oh, you're messing around on a computer playing solitaire again, weren't you?" "Yes, father, I beat it as well." So, anyways, there you go. There were my first experiences with it. It was Minesweeper I didn't get, Solitaire I loved, but was also it took me a while to actually get good at it. But then it was that kind of game where it's like as soon as you get it, then the magic wears off. Then you're like, okay, I can do this all day, and I don't want to anymore. So the one that probably single-handedly occupied the most time for me was Galactic or Space Cadet, 3D Pinball Space Cadet.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Incredible. I spent so much time playing that game.
Yep.
So,
Yeah.
cool, cool.
T-Bone and I also spent a ridiculous amount of time on that pinball game. And I played a lot of Ski Free too. Ski Free was like look how fast our computer is. It can run this so quickly. It's got a crazy processor. I remember the whole thing. Like, it's got a penny
got
one.
a 32 megabyte processor. Oh, what? Yeah, which was $400 at the time. Ridiculous.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
crazy. Yeah, technology has blown up so fast. So
Yeah.
I feel like we've already answered this question, but in case we missed any, what are the best preloaded games? I would
3D
say I would
Space
even
Cadet Pinball and Astro's Playroom. That's it. They're the two best. Done.
yeah. I would say I would put Ski Free, Minesweeper, and Solitaire on that list as well, just because they are I think they're ubiquitous. Like you and I said, we didn't get Minesweeper until later in life, but still, it was like Minesweeper was always there, staring at you, challenging you to be smart enough to get it. So I would say it's definitely there.
Yeah.
Because even though I'm bad at it and still to this day remain bad at it, I respect it. I have respect for Minesweeper. It was always there waiting for me. Cool. All right. Well, then, wow, we're so far ahead.
We are.
I almost feel like I regret skipping banter. So maybe we can like loop back around and banter for a little bit after this. But we got the last question here, which is, how can the idea of preloading games be utilized by companies making games now in the future? Is it now to the point where it would just be bloatware and annoying? Or can the idea still stand and be something good, a la our, Golden Child Astro's Playroom?
Yeah, I've got an idea here. For Microsoft, again, I want that dump truck full of cash backed up to my house, because this is for you, Microsoft. You want Game Pass to be a thing for everyone. You want to spread the word, the great word of Game Pass to everyone. Here's how you do it. Every single Microsoft Windows computer comes with a 1 month free Game Pass PC subscription. Every single Xbox ever, all the tiers, right? The Series S, the Series X. There's rumors of this new streaming only cloud-based Reddit, whatever. All your Xboxes take something from your Game Pass library, that like an iconic Xbox game, and it's already patched and preloaded and ready to go the moment you turn it on from the box. Like, boom.
I feel like they could
probably
do that with Halo.
Something.
I feel like Halo is small, like basic OG
but
Halo.
It has to be. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, Halo 1, right? It doesn't need a patch. It's done. It's what it is, complete. And
not the Master Chief Collection though, and not the anniversary versions. I'm talking the literal OG.
Oh, but that might not age
version.
well. They want to showcase the hardware.
It doesn't need to. It's a classic. Oh, okay. All right. I see what you're saying. Showcase the hardware. Yeah. So but if it's a Windows operating, you're talking about an Xbox. Okay, never mind. Yep, carry on.
Right.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So it could be different for each platform. Could have its own sort of thing, right? So if it's a Windows PC, Windows 10, 11, 12, whatever.
On Windows. It should be Doom on Windows.
Right. Like Doom Eternal could be the most modern
not
one.
That, not even that, because you can't guarantee what their what they're going to be running it on. They could be running it on the equivalent of a potato. So therefore, run it, like put the old OG Doom on there, and it's just like,
which is on Game Pass. So
yeah,
yeah. There you go.
I think, and I'm riffing off your idea to say they need to scrap the Xbox store or whatever, scrap the Xbox branding all over. It's still Xbox, of course, but scrap that branding on the apps they preload on Windows, because you have the Xbox store and it's like the game storefront. Everything should be Game Pass now. Like, Game Pass has been such a success for Windows that it should just be, boom, there's a Game Pass app. Game Pass is now an app, and you still have to subscribe to it. It's still a subscription service, of course, but like Netflix, it's also an app that's just, boom, loaded on the computer. Boom, here are a bunch of classic games preloaded, and then some more more advanced games that are like take up more space and require more processing. Like, the more advanced games, those are available to download for free. Just a suite of games for free, not a free subscription, but free games just available on the Game Pass app that's available on everything. And then they entice you into the subscription service.
Some way, somehow, they can figure it out.
Because it's all there. It's all there. Because you open up the app and it's like, boom, here's a bunch of cool games to subscribe to. You want it? Do you want to subscribe for a monthly subscription? Blah, 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 blah. But then you don't want to subscribe. That's okay. Here's a bunch of games preloaded.
Right,
Classic
you can still
Doom.
play.
You want to play Classic Doom. That should be the app that is the games app, right? When they go to open up to play Solitaire, it should be through the Game Pass app.
Give me some Doom.
It's just like, boom, but it should be lightweight. Doom. It cannot be obtuse and obnoxious to navigate. It just has to be. That's the challenge. Don't make me log into it. Encourage me to log into it, Microsoft, but don't make me log into it, because that's Microsoft's thing. And I hate it every time it pops up. But if you can avoid doing all of that, then you've got a gem. Game Pass then is cemented in the minds of everybody who buys a Windows product. It's genius.
That'd be great. Yeah, there you go.
It's not a free idea. It's a separate, not free idea on top of the already not free ideas we've added. So
we've upgraded your
3 dump trucks. each.
No. One dump truck, but $5 bills instead of $1 bills. Yeah.
Yes. I love it.
Yep. You can have all three ideas.
I must be swimming in them Hamiltons.
Hamilton is a $10 bill, sir.
They call me Aaron Burr. Oh, dang it. Who's on the 5? Lincoln?
Lincoln. Yes.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah. Swimming in the Lincolns.
Some of the directions
and then
but
Sony and Nintendo with the Switch, like with the Nintendo Switch online service, every Nintendo Switch should have access to it right out the gate. Every account, if you have to have a Nintendo account anyway, you might as well give them a month free of the online service, and you have the full library of Nintendo, Super Nintendo, N64, and Sega Genesis titles. Just boom, and then don't set the auto renewal up because you have to have a credit card, but give them the free month regardless with credit card or not, and you have all of that preloaded, and then maybe make 1 or 2 titles from each system free forever, whatever, just to get people enticed. Like, and what's better than like Mario 3 on the Nintendo, like Mario 3 on every Switch,
like classic Mario, classic Zelda, classic Kirby or something, right? Like, or classic Metroid, right? Like throws 3 games on every Nintendo Switch. They take up nothing, no space, and just and then you guarantee that all those kids have something to do if their parents can't afford to also buy a game for them at Christmas, right? Like, I'm sorry, we spent everything on the Switch, but hey, guess what? You can play these classic games. That would be amazing. That would be so. Yeah. It's a gesture of goodwill that costs Nintendo nothing.
Yeah,
nothing. And would go a long way into
it would create an entirely new generation of game developers to work for Nintendo.
It would create an entirely new generation of people who appreciate those classics too, right? And therefore, and Nintendo's entire business model is based off of new versions of their classic games, and so you want to keep those classics in the systems and in the minds of the next generation, because how do we know that Nintendo will survive Generation Z, who may, God forbid, not care about Mario?
Right.
Right? Like, that's entirely possible. So no, I like where you're going with that. But yeah, no, I mean, there's tons of applications of this, right? Cloud gaming, like, make it so, you created a, like, if cloud gaming takes off the way that I think Silicon Valley wants it to take off, right? Oh, you signed up for a Facebook gaming account. Here are games for free. It's like, it's not even so much that they're, the idea of preloaded is just the idea of like immediately accessible games, right? Like, that's sort of the spiritual child of it, right? Like, the idea of them being preloaded is unique, of course, to a local on-prem, we call it, operating system. However, the idea could still work in the cloud. It's just a matter of a switch you turn where it's just like, you've created an account. Here's a bunch of games you can now play right now because, hey, we want you to be excited about this thing you just signed up for. And we don't want you to have to spend more money or subscribe to a service. We want you in this ecosystem so we can then, once you're in the ecosystem, we can then get you, once you're used to it, right? It's hook, line, and sinker.
The first one's always free.
It's ultimately scummy business practices, but it's the kind of scummy business practice that I can get behind. Why? Because it's free stuff. And I am a savvy enough consumer to resist it, but it's a win-win. It's win-win-win, right? So, because even if I'm the dude playing on for free, I'm still contributing to the numbers that say that it's a successful, which then lures more money, right? So my presence alone is enough to still be a revenue generating thing, that there's no harm in doing it from the business side, because why not? So I think it's a good idea. So any other thoughts about?
Yeah, Steam Deck should have some PC games preloaded on it.
Oh, well, yeah, obviously Steam, period.
Right?
I mean, Epic Games is kind of doing that, right? You have Epic, you have the Epic Games Store. It's a free, here. All you have to have is an account with Epic Games, and you have the game and the game store downloaded, and boom, access to free games. Like, Steam should be 100% competing in that same vein.
How many? There's a list here. I have my Epic Game Store list up here. I don't know. There's a bunch of games. 54. I have 54 games for free. Never bought a single game on the Epic Game Store.
Have you played any of them?
Yeah, I played Grand Theft Auto 5 and Borderlands 3. And I've installed and have played Gloomhaven, the digital version of the board game.
That's awesome.
Because it was free.
We want to hear what your thoughts are, listeners, on preloaded games, all the various things we've talked about tonight. We want to hear your DLC ideas. What should preloaded, what would like the next, it doesn't have to be Windows 10. It could be the next Mac. Mac doesn't own any games like Microsoft does. So what? And you know what? But we did criminally not talk about preloaded games on Macintosh. Like, what were the legendary preloaded?
There
Mac
were some.
games?
We just didn't get exposed to those.
We want to hear what your bad operating systems ideas of good games were. I'm sorry. We want to hear what your perfectly valid operating systems idea of good games were. What are those iPhone games that are like everybody gets and everybody loves? You know, give us your best shot at trying to convince us that we're wrong about your bad operating system, and any other thoughts you might have. Termite will tell you where.
You can tell us all about your bug DOMs and your nanosaurs and your automatics, Deimos Rising, Cro-Mag Rally. Those are all Mac games. No, they're Mac games. They're Mac preloaded games. Tell me all about them. They are. I'm looking at it.
No, nobody plays them. Nobody talks about them. Nobody cares. Go on.
Tell me all about those.
No, we want to hear. We want to hear those.
All that over at 80bitpodsmash.com. That's our landing website where we have links to our social media platforms so you can tell us all about these games. Facebook, Instagram, Reddit, Twitter, and Discord. We have our Discord server, which is up and active. People are chatting. So go be a part of that conversation and tell us all of the things you care about. Thoughts, questions, comments, concerns, and ideas. And if you're listening to us by some other medium that's not a podcast and you want to know what's going on with us, we launch new episodes every Monday on our podcast feed, and you can find access to all of the Spotify, Google Play podcasts, Apple Podcasts over at 80bitpodsmash.com as well. And there's an RSS feed link. You can throw that into any app, and you can put us on anything you want, wherever you want us to be.
Wherever you want us to be. Fantastic. All right, so next week we are ramping up for Halloween, and so we're going to actually do something that surprisingly we have never talked about on the podcast in 5 years, and that is Halloween and its effect on the gaming culture and industry, and gaming's effect on the Halloween culture and industry in reverse. So there's been a sort of like feeding off one or the other, and like to give you sort of an idea of what we're talking about the idea that like gaming's effect on cosplay has had a huge like boom in revenue to the Halloween industry, and consequently Halloween as a celebration has a huge effect on the gaming industry and things like live events. So we're talking about both of those and how they cross-pollinate, and we have never done that, so we're doing that Halloween. I had to look it up. I had to like double check that we hadn't covered that, so that's what we're talking about next week. We're not doing it for Halloween, but it'll be the week before Halloween when that airs, and then of course we'll end up the month with Monster Smash, talking about zombies this year. So you have all that to look forward to and more.
All right,
next week.
See you next week.